Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the 8th chapter of What Would Have Happened If Naruto Were the Reincarnation of Asura. I hope you enjoyed the previous chapter, and if not, I invite you to check out my channel. Without further ado, I'll leave you with the story.
Chapter 22, Polarity. Previously, Karen, the Regent, curtsied. This humble subject pays her respects to your highnesses. You've changed quite a bit since the last time I saw you. Kotai Shidano, Lord Crown Prince. The Sessho replied. The air became palpably tense as silence dragged on for 5 seconds. Sayuri's inspective gaze never leaving her face. The feeling is mutual, Naruto said finally. And please, just Naruto. Karen beckoned for the couple to join her at a bench, where a retainer served cups of tea. Well, I suppose the question on your mind right now is what happened after Orochimaru took me, said the Regent after a sip of Uzushio's signature red tea. He brought me to his base where he kept all his other experiment subjects, Karen said. Experimented on me and withdrew quite a bit of blood too. Guilt and pity were the two things on Naruto's mind right now. He had inadvertently let this happen to her. Then, weeks later, news broke that you killed him. We escaped and I ran. All the way for 2 years until I met a scout party from Uzushio which recognized my heritage. Now here I am. I'm sorry about that. For not being able to save you. What for? You saved my life and offered me shelter. And though I was taken by Orochimaru, you still killed him in the end, indirectly freeing me. I should be thanking you, my prince. My feelings of guilt still remain, replied the white-haired prince. The Princess Regent waved her hand dismissively. Anyways, let us discuss more pressing matters. Your accession to the Maelstrom throne, provided all goes well, has been scheduled for next month by the Imperial Court to give you time to learn about Uzushio and its customs. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Karen continued, the Empire really is different from the outside world. We have the potential to change it if we open our borders. I can see why people would be reluctant to do that though. The last time our borders were open, it didn't end well for Uzushio at all, said Naruto. Though I believe with sufficient preparation, this island could become a very fortified capital. Karen nodded. I think that we're more than ready. The past 70 years of rebuilding in isolation without having to worry about external conflict has allowed the village to progress far in the development of fuinjutsu and technology. A year ago, our engineers discovered a method of travel that would allow us to dominate the skies. It's only a matter of time before these things can carry civilians for travel, cargo for trade, or even be used for national defense. Aren't you excited about the possibilities? Naruto Dano. The Crown Prince smiled in return. Definitely. But before that, I've much to learn before I can help expedite this development on a global scale. Please, guide me. The Sessho's grin widened as she got up from the bench and curtsied again. Of course, my prince. Allow me to show you the town tomorrow, but for now I believe you need rest. The Chief Chamberlain will bring you to the Togu, Crown Prince's residence. Your humble subject respectfully takes her leave. The redhead's gaze landed momentarily on the Crown Princess, who had been silently observing her the entire time. With another smile, she turned and exited with her servants. As soon as the doors to the state function hall closed behind the entourage, Sayuri faced Naruto, her expression betraying her displeasure. Without looking, the Uzumaki could already sense her unrest and placed a placating hand on her lap. I don't like her, she said simply. Her husband said. I couldn't sense any deceit in her voice though. I don't see any reason why we should doubt her. I just don't have a good feeling about this. Yugao spoke up. Sorry to interrupt, your highnesses. The Chief Chamberlain is outside. Send him in. Later, after a dinner of typical Uzushio cuisine seafood caught from the Chijukawa, most of Naruto's retinue had retired to the servants' quarters in the Crown Prince's residence. The royals themselves, however, were a different matter altogether. The night was young after all. With a distortion of the air, they reappeared on a cobblestone path in the public park outside the palace. Sayuri's Mangekyo reverted to its normal ebony color, the same as the color of the cloaks which they had donned for their short, uncurated trip to explore the city. The two took the nearest turn towards the main streets and leapt onto a rooftop before breaking off into a sprint. Down below, the city pulsated with the soft glow of electric lights, indicating that the sun's position in the sky was no measure of how active Uzushio citizens were. A sudden rush of wind caught their attention. Nearby, one of the metro trains had just pulled into the Imperial Palace station, the smooth hum of Whirlpool engineering being the only announcement of its arrival, as seals prevented any noise from leaving the confines of its tracks and kept the neighborhood free from noise pollution. The couple shared a look before jumping onto the platform from the closest ledge, ignoring the stares that other commuters gave them. As soon as the doors opened, they slid in to join the workers returning home. The peak hour was already over, leaving fewer aboard the train. According to one of the many maps on the train, they were on one of 9 lines in the Byzantine system that was Uzushiogakure's main mode of transport. In fact, the train system didn't just stop in the village. The central station, which was nearer to Mount Hokuto, had tracks connecting to adjacent prefectures in Yuzu no Kuni. As the train came to a stop at Central Station, they figured they might as well drop by the next prefecture, Kyoto, capital's east, where the immigrants from Konoha were being housed. A quick transfer brought them on board the next train headed to Kyoto, which left the station shortly with a powerful acceleration of its engines. Sayuri gazed at the surroundings outside the windows as it blurred into a palette of night colors. She watched the hills in the landscape as they zoomed past with childlike wonder, before they were gradually taken over by ultra-modern infrastructure which came into view after a minute of travel. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said Naruto with a smile. Was that a pout on her face? "To think we missed so much because of that horse carriage ride," replied Sayuri, her eyes never once leaving the beautiful background. Kyoto Main Station, came the voice of a woman through a speaker. The pair alighted the train along with the crowd, exiting the station which was at the nexus of the prefecture's main shopping malls that extended for miles. In the distance, there was a mass movement of people towards towering apartment blocks, guided by bright electric lights and the glow of policemen's lanterns as they managed the flow of refugees. In Yugao's correspondence with the imperial court, there had been an agreement to house the citizens of Konohagakure in the suitably large, albeit dense estate, as the empire citizens had yet to buy any of the flats in these 100-story behemoths. Civilians were assigned into what was essentially giant pigeonholes, whereas shinobi clans had the privilege of occupying several floors at once. Thanks to Fuinjutsu, however, each flat had more space on the inside than what it took up on the outside. Thus, within just several blocks of these buildings, the imperial government had successfully housed the entire refugee population. Moving them into their flats was a logistical nightmare though, and Naruto had taken the liberty of issuing free storage scrolls for each family to seal whatever remained of their house that they wished to bring to Uzushio. All in all, it seemed that the housing crisis caused by pain had been settled rather cleanly, plus they were only to stay for about 3 years until Konoha was rebuilt, if Tezuna's estimates were anything to go by. "Come on, Naruto-kun, let's grab a coffee," Sayuri said, grabbing his hand and pulling him along towards a coffee shop situated along one of the main streets. Her palms felt cold to the touch, no doubt a result of the coolness that came with late autumn. Instinctively, Naruto shed his cloak with his free hand, draping it over his wife and earning him a look of surprise. She stopped and smiled at him warmly, cliché as it was, making his heart skip a beat before clutching the jacket closer to her body. "Arigato." The door swung open with a jingle of wind chimes as they stepped into the cafe, greeted by the sound of light jazz. "Welcome," said one of the staff, guiding them to a table for 2 located near the window. There weren't many guests around at this time, but those who were there were mostly working couples having a small drink, and what appeared to be students, as Naruto inferred from the frantic reading of books sprawled across their tables accompanied by several cups of espresso. Sayuri smirked in amusement. "That'll be you soon enough." The crown prince raised an eyebrow. "Me," she nodded before her voice dropped to a whisper. "We will have to begin some level of formal education to properly govern the empire. Economics, statistics, war, infrastructure, history, geography, the like." Naruto held up a hand to interrupt her, already feeling the migraine coming on. Though Asura's powers allowed him to grasp the nature of chakra and comprehend all universal things, studying was still a pain in the neck for him, and this time he had no choice, with the lives of millions in his hands. "Can we please talk about this later and order our drinks first?" He paused to look up at the menu he expected to see on the wall behind the cashier, only to find nothing. Ha! Everyone else seems to be pressing on that device in their hands, Sayuri pointed out as she observed the other tables. Right? Said Naruto as he fished for the tablet-looking electronic device, satisfied when its display turned on when he put it on the table. Lo and behold, the menu. Minutes later. You don't sound very keen about this whole empire thing. Naruto shook his head. It's a really huge responsibility. The hopes of millions are riding on me. Sayuri corrected. Don't forget that I'll always be beside you. Thanks, but it'll still be a pain getting everything in order. Since when did you become Shikamaru? Said Sayuri, suppressing a smile. The Uzumaki sighed sadly. Something else is on your mind, Sayuri guessed, having watched his expression closely. He hated how she was right, how she read him like an open book, every damn time. It's nothing. The red in her right eye turned to black as she blinked, regarding him suspiciously. Nonetheless, she kept silent, deciding not to press him further in spite of her worry. Here are your lattes, sir, ma'am, a waiter said as he set down the two beverages on their table. Thank you. Naruto eyed the drinks as soon as he left. They appeared unusual, and were certainly not something found back in Konoha. That was the reason they had ordered it anyway. Itadakimasu. Later, it's crazy how 70 years of isolation could result in this, isn't it? Asked Naruto as he took the final sip of his drink. Sayuri brought the napkin down from her lips, nodding in agreement. It's almost too perfect. There must be something wrong somewhere. Where the hell are my drinks? A burly man in his 50s yelled suddenly, startling the other customers in the cafe. He was dressed in green fatigues, a red armband around his left arm, a soldier. Accompanying him was another similarly dressed shinobi who was trying to calm him down. Sit down, Ishikawa. You're making a fool of yourself, urged his companion, who tried to pull him back into his chair but was merely shrugged off. The distressed waiter ran over as quickly as he could to the irate customer. Sorry, sir. We're doing our best. Don't give me excuses. You know who I am, don't you? I'm the chief of the army, he bellowed, his chest nearly exploding from his ego. You best hurry up if you know what's good for you, or I'll wreck this store. Naruto gave him a glance, before looking back at Sayuri. Well, there you have it. Let's go. His consort nodded, standing up. Guess I shouldn't have said anything. On their way out, the couple passed by the experienced jonin who led the nation's troops, and Naruto paused mid-step. What are you looking at, you white-haired, blue-eyed prick? Snapped the general angrily. Wow, someone really needed their coffee. The Uzumaki shook his head and walked away. Sayuri followed suit, but not before giving him a look with her dojutsu primed at full power. The man sat down docilely, a glazed look over his face. Thank you for the meal, said Naruto, tapping the credit card he had been issued in the name of the palace on the reader at the cashier's counter. The cashier's face changed to one of shock when the name of the imperial clan appeared on his display. He looked up to thank the royal couple for their patronage, only to hear the sound of wind chimes at the door announcing that they had already left. Naruto exhaled, watching as his breath visibly condensed in the air into small clouds of mist. It's getting really cold around here, Sayuri. Shall we head back? She rubbed her hands together thoughtfully. It's still kinda early, isn't it? Let's shop around here. The buildings probably have some kind of heating system. He hated how she was right again. Crown Prince's residence, imperial bedchamber. The military is too powerful, Naruto said simply, as he set down the bags from their impromptu spree. Look at how easily he bullied civilians. We've to curb their power somehow then. Let's examine the laws in the library tomorrow, said Sayuri. I'll crash first, said Naruto as walked to the bed. He was kicked violently away from it by a disgusted crown princess. You're not sleeping in the same bed as me if you're gonna remain dirty. Sighing, he resigned himself to taking a bath. What a tsundere. After a nice scrub, the two finally got into bed, replacing their shadow clones. Naruto pulled up the silk blanket to his neck, making sure Sayuri was well covered for the freezing night. Good night, drip, 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 bladder, red, red, a sea of blood stretching out to infinity. Where in the world was he? What's wrong? He spun around to face the voice behind him, only to take a step back, aghast at the sight of a corpse pinned to a cross, sunken eyes, and ribs that poked through the little skin he had. Wisps of red hair identified this man as the one he had brutally murdered just days ago. "What are you waiting for?" the man taunted, his raspy voice like the sound of a knife scraping across stone. Naruto looked down. In his hand, a rod the color of night. "No, no." Shaking his hands, he realized dropped the bloodied weapon, where it disappeared below the murky, crimson surface. "What's the matter? Can't do it?" said the elder Uzumaki. "Stop it!" Naruto screamed, bringing his hands to his ears to drown out the voice. The voice that was a reminder of his failure to live up to his own philosophy. "TCH, you're weak." This time, the man spoke with a different voice, one so familiar it caused his head to snap upwards. On the crucifix was a blonde Uzumaki Naruto, his pupils as red as Kurama's and his sclerae black. "I could do it, but you cannot. Some hero you are. You, a child of the prophecy? I've never heard worser jokes about a coward. They were right about you. You're a demon that deserves to die. You are a hypocrite that touts liberty but murders people and enslaves the population," spat the Naruto before him in a tirade. "How are you going to fight the enemy? The strongest you'll ever face when you can't even enter sage mode. What a pathetic mess." The nightmarish figure pulled himself off the cross, wielding the rods he removed from his wrists while Naruto was shocked by his accusation. "I'll save you the trouble and just end you," said the blonde as he stabbed the sharp implements into his sides, penetrating his ribcage. Naruto wheezed, collapsing onto his knees before his alternate self grabbed hold of his throat and slammed him into the bloody waters. "Die, die, die," muttered the blonde as he began to crush his larynx with his fingers. Air was rapidly forced out his lungs as he began to asphyxiate, his muscles desperate for the oxygen that he had long been accustomed to. But no matter how much he kicked, he felt no strength in his body and could not resist at all. The life was being squeezed out of him and could only be likened to a million shards of superheated glass stabbing his lungs as he choked. The light faded from his eyes as he trashed in vain, before finally, everything turned to dark. The white-haired prince sat up in cold sweat. He instinctively reached for his neck to pry the phantom hands of his double away, only to find perspiration. Panting, he drew deep breaths, relieved to find that he could breathe again. What was that? Next to him, Sayuri stirred, and for a moment he was afraid he had roused her. Spawning a shadow clone which substituted him, he stepped out to the patio as silently as the nightingale floors allowed him to. Sitting down on the smooth, wooden planks outside, he decided to try meditating. It was just a nightmare, but it felt so real. Damn it, Naruto. Keep your head clear, he thought. There was a proper way to meditate and he wasn't going anywhere with this. Yet every time he closed his eyes, images of blood, the crucifix, and his blonde self lunging at him filled his mind. He opened his eyes with a sigh, giving up on any meditation. Standing up, he gazed at the half-moon, in awe at the bright moonlight it afforded on this cloudy night. Its surface was littered with dark spots, ancient basaltic plains called Lunar Maria, and it reminded him that within one of them, Otsutsuki Kagaya was imprisoned, waiting to be resurrected. Naruto's gaze hardened as he thought of his main goal. The past few days had been a blur, with him distracted by the whole imperial family business. If he had to be honest with himself, there had not been much time for him to get in touch with himself, to reflect on his actions and his aspirations. For one, it was obvious that he was still traumatized by his own actions against the Akatsuki leader. It was painful to relive the moment when he had come unhinged and went berserk, committing such a brutal act that was so deeply against his own ideology of accepting the people around him and believing against all odds that people are worthy of salvation and redemption. For that matter, was it even his philosophy? Or was that what Asura had expected him to live up to? Secondly, he had to deal with the immigration of Konoha's refugees, which was not an easy task at all given their sheer size. Also, he had plans to rebuild the village and make it the new seat of Uzushio's government. But that also depended on how the other Kage would react to his announcement and offers of friendship. He would probably have to gather domestic support as well, something that would take a lot of time which he didn't have. Lastly, the ultimate battle was still in mind. He had no idea who the masked man was, though he had a good idea what he did with the Uzumaki's body. He was also quite possibly the last Jinchuriki alive, making him the only one standing between the world and literal Armageddon. And was his past self right? Could he not enter Sage mode? He certainly didn't want to find out in the middle of a combat situation. Taking a deep breath, he tried to feel for the natural energy around him. The Zen garden before him definitely helped. Its carefully arranged patterns of white sand, gravel, rocks, and moss simulating natural landscapes of mountains, forests, and seas. He felt the familiar sensation of natural energy entering his body. Yet something was inexorably off. Natural energy was not mixing well with his chakra at all. Focusing, he tried to envision the assimilation of his chakra with the environment, but instead experienced the sensation of chakra swirling all over the place instead of blending into a potent mix. For that matter, with his innate ability to understand chakra, what he gleaned was that his chakra didn't even feel like it was his. He knew it was, seeing how it was emanating from his own coils, but there was definitely something different, something wrong. Karama, what is up with my chakra? You were a dumbass. Asura warned you, but you didn't listen, the QB snarled. What he means to say, spoke Asura for the first time since the day of the attack, is that your chakra coils have been irreversibly damaged by your overuse of the 6-path sage mode. By healing all the villagers, you sacrificed what little power you had and that ruptured your coils. I must hand it to Tsunade though, she managed to save your life and repair your system to a semblance of its former self. However, I have to relearn chakra control and senjutsu, don't I? The Otsutsuki nodded sadly. Starting from scratch is a small price to pay in light of what could have happened. I will do it. Wait, Naruto-kun. Have you figured it out? What to do with the curse of hatred? My presence weakens with its every appearance. The crown prince smiled. I'm still trying, Asura-san. But I've a feeling I'll have it down in this lifetime. Pine Chamber, Throne Room. Afternoon. Your humble subjects pay their respects to your imperial highnesses. Chorused the various ministers, all old men of varying seniority in the government. Naruto acknowledged their greeting with a nod, sitting down on the throne on top of a dais that lay at the end of a wide hall serving as the imperial government's place of assembly. He was joined by Sayuri and Karen on separate chairs to his right and left respectively. The rest of the courtiers remained kneeling along both sides of the central carpet which ended at the dais. Allow me to preface this meeting by first introducing myself to you all. I am Prince of the Blood Uzumaki Naruto of Kushina, Uzumaki Naruto Shino, and son of the Yondaime Hokage Namikaze Minato. As the last descendant of the legitimate male line, I am the first in line to the throne and thus heir apparent, barring the 3 deeds of old which will be brought forth today for the court to examine. On my right here is Uzumaki Sayuri, the last of the Uchiha, one of the 4 noble clans of Konohagakure. Through morganatic matrimony, she has gained the title of Shinohi, Princess Consort, making her formal appellation Sayuri, Princess Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto Shinohi Sayuri. Is there any opposition to this marriage? Asked Naruto, but his tone made it clear that there was no room for argument. The courtiers present did not have much to argue about anyways. They weren't about to force the prince into another marriage when he had already been married before he gained his title. The Uzumaki were monogamous monarchs by tradition. Moreover, there were much more pressing issues to deal with. No? Then we shall move on with cross-examining the 3 deeds. I will let my retainer Yuzuki Yugao, the one you had tasked to watch over me, report on them should anyone wish to challenge my heir apparency. Yes, my lord, spoke Yugao as she strode up before the dais and turned to the ministers of the court. His Highness' first deed was playing an instrumental role in the breaking of Gado's monopoly over Nami no Kuni. My lord inspired the people and led to a revitalization of the country with the building of the Great Naruto Bridge. As a result, His Highness gained the title of Hero of Wave. For my lord's second deed, together with Her Highness Princess Sayuri, they repelled the invaders during Suna and Odo's attack on Konoha. Demonstrating great skill, they managed to defeat 2 reanimated Hokage and the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi, even causing him to turn over a new leaf and restart the Konoha-Suna alliance. Furthermore, with his knowledge of Fuinjutsu, His Highness dealt a debilitating blow to the renegade Sannin Orochimaru, sealing off his arms and preventing his use of jutsu, which allowed him to be killed at a later date. Last but not least, His Highness most recently single-handedly defeated 7 S-class shinobi who had invaded Konoha in search of the Kyuubi. They were leaders of the Akatsuki and had caused an unprecedented amount of damage to the village, resulting in the exodus. After defeating the leader of Akatsuki, my lord sacrificed himself to heal all the survivors in the village of their injuries, no matter how big or small, and survived with the intervention of Princess Tsunade of Mito. The proof of the first can be found in Konoha's mission records. The second can be proved with the minutes of a particular session of Konoha's council, while the last is within the collective memory of every Konoha citizen. This concludes my report. Yugao looked at each and every one of their faces, almost daring them to disagree with her that Naruto was undeserving of enthronement. This turned out to be unnecessary, however, as the 3 deeds were mainly customary and a rite of passage for the children of the reigning monarch. They were established as a promise by the first emperor to have the people's needs in mind, but ultimately, it had declined into mere tradition that was more often than not easily passed by the court. Moreover, the court was the one that had ordered her to launch an imperial restoration when the rightful heir was ready, and it would do them no favors to challenge their only hope of properly restoring the empire. "We do not have any objections to your Highness' heir apparency," declared the premier, a wizened octogenarian with a long beard. "Let us formally greet you with the title of Crown Prince, my lord, and may Princess Sayuri be invested with the associated title. Hail! Their Imperial Highnesses Naruto and Sayuri, Crown Prince and Princess of Uzushio. Banzai, banzai, banzai." The ministers echoed in unison. As is customary, their Imperial Highnesses will now receive personal emblems as part of the Imperial family, announced the Grand Steward. His Imperial Highness the Crown Prince shall possess the Kikuka chrysanthemum, while Her Imperial Highness the Crown Princess shall be endowed with the Toka Polonia. I propose that your Highness' accession be scheduled for next month. We will find the most auspicious day for enthronement, and your Highness will have time to learn about Uzushio-gakure and also complete the pilgrimage to Mount Hokuto's summit before that day arrives, said the premier. Naruto was puzzled but did nothing to show it. No one had mentioned anything about a pilgrimage, so he took it in stride under the assumption that it was another rite of passage to complete before his accession. How the hell did anyone become emperor in those days? It must have been taxing to all his ancestors. All right, that'll do, replied Naruto. You will report to me on the date in the next session of the court in 2 weeks' time. Also, explore the possibility of holding a wedding ceremony for my consort and I concurrently with the accession. We may have been legally married, but we are not wedded yet. The premier bowed his head. As you command, my lord. Also, I have taken the liberty of summoning the chief of the army into the court. Send him in, the Crown Prince ordered. Looks of confusion filled the room as they looked back to see the soldier walking into the room with his head down. Kneeling, he greeted. This humble subject, the chief of the army, pays his respects to your Imperial Highnesses. You summoned me, my lord. Ishikawa, Naruto spoke, sending chills down the general's spine with his voice, as it sounded awfully hostile in spite of its even tone. Look up and tell me what you think of this white-haired, blue-eyed prick. Later, the look on his face was priceless, said Sayuri with a smirk. Naruto smiled in agreement. Now that Ishikawa has been dismissed, I hope the Minister of Defense will find a better replacement. We have to rally the people together to strengthen the people's faith in the empire, and military officers abusing their authority is no way to go about it. Seems like you know what you're doing. You aren't doing bad at all, Naruto-kun, his consort said, before grabbing his hand and pulling him towards the largest collection of books in the country. The Imperial Library was a vast 20-story complex filled to the brim with shelves of tomes that spoke of ancient secrets, the Imperial family's hidden techniques, and the history of the world that was not taught in Konoha. Conveniently, it was located near the Pine Chamber as well as the Emperor's work office, something Naruto was sure would come in handy in the future. Though much of the data was also stored in a supercomputer at the center of the library, there was no way Naruto could get through all these books quickly without manually reading them with his clones, as there was only one such machine. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. As smoke floated aloft in the archives of Uzushio with clones grabbing books to read for the rest of the day, Sayuri proceeded to use one shadow clone to run through books at an immeasurable pace, burning walls of text, maps and pictures of every field imaginable into her memory with her Sharingan. Meanwhile, the originals prepared to join Karen on the second part of their tour of the city. In the morning, the Regent had shown them the businesses that ran downtown, the harbor, parks, as well as schools. Now, they were on the campus of the University of Uchiha, the sole institution of higher education in the country. Here, there are several colleges which teach subjects pertaining to all kinds of fields. Of note is the Shinobi College, under which there is the School of Shinobi Arts, which has the standard sectors of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and jinjutsu, as well as the School of Sealing Arts, which has entire departments dedicated to the various types of fuinjutsu. At the end of their courses, graduates attain degrees in their fields and move on to their careers, where they specialize in the many segments of Uchiha society. Esteemed students are offered places in the public service, and if they graduated from the Shinobi College, they may even be commissioned as officers within the armed forces, putting them around high chunin to low jonin level. I see. It's so much more structured than what we have in other parts of the elemental nations, isn't it? Indeed. Admittedly, a well-developed education system was one of the first things that struck me as extremely advanced when I first came here, Karen replied. She brought them past a tutorial room where students were furiously scribbling lines of fuinjutsu script while a clock at the front of the classroom ticked down. Karen then walked them to the central plaza of the college, where students were casting techniques under the supervision of a professor. Breathe, he snapped, causing a student's fireball to balloon. This is like an advanced version of the academy, muttered Naruto. I suppose this is where we'll find the intellectuals we need for the government, said Sayuri. Die, imperialist scum, came the sudden scream of a young man on their right, blowing a fireball in their direction. Instinctively, Sayuri's eyes activated, causing a purplish aura to envelope the royals while the fire passed around them harmlessly. Meanwhile, their retainers had already found purchase on the student's arms and neck, pressing him to the floor. One of them slapped a chakra and paralysis seal on the man while the other reaped his legs from under him, subjugating him. Sayuri walked towards him, seizing the student with her Susanu's armored claw. In his mind's eye, an intimidating persona of death loomed above the crown princess, its piercing yellow eyes boring into his soul while the air around them warped in a black haze. At this, the three servants stepped away in slight fear, evinced by their subtle shivering when in proximity with the Uchiha. Chakra from Naruto flared a bright orange, outstripping Sayuri's deathly aura in both presence and power as a sudden wind engulfed the plaza. Put him down. Sayuri huffed internally and set him down, albeit reluctantly. All right then, don't get your chakra riled up, Naruto. You've alarmed everyone. She was right. Activity in the plaza had ceased as everyone stopped to look at the commotion. Only the professor was rushing over to the retinue in worry. I'm sorry, Your Highness, pleaded the professor. I wasn't vigilant enough. Please spare me. The Uzumaki silenced him with a dismissive wave. As far as my knowledge goes about the laws of the land. Naruto paused as a shadow clone in the library dispelled. Lèse-majesté is not a crime. But attempting to murder the crown prince constitutes high treason, which carries a heavy punishment. The man looked up indignantly at him. Kill me then. Give me liberty or give me death. Naruto shook his head as he raised his right hand in the seal of confrontation, dismantling the seals which had been binding him. I think you misunderstand. I have no intention of killing you, but I hope you keep what I said in mind, said the white-haired prince to the 20-something student as he helped him up. I want to talk to you, said Naruto, before looking around. Preferably in a cafeteria of some sort. The student scowled. I will not conspire with the imperialists and betray the people. Shut up when the prince is talking, you ingrate. Yugao spat. He wishes to spare your puny life, so be thankful and cooperate. Clearly, she wasn't too happy about her master's wishes, but she knew she had no say in this. Naruto-Sayuri started, but her husband was having none of it. Please proceed with my shadow clone. I'll take care of this personally. See you later. But this is an order, he snapped in response to his retinue's protests. Sayuri glared at him, letting her anger be known, but he ignored it, and got the professor to direct them towards the nearest establishment on campus, Shinobi College Canteen. The would-be assassin sat down next to his mark at a table situated further away from the rest of the crowd of students. The Crown Prince had gotten them both pastries and toast for high tea. "So what can I do for you, Your Highness?" the student gritted out. Naruto frowned and in one swift move, parried the butter knife aimed suddenly at his face with his own knife. With minimal force, he brought the arm of the student down to the table and with his other hand, reactivated the paralysis seal while confiscating the knife. "You see, I don't quite understand you, nor what you aim to achieve from all this. Glory to your name that you've slain the Crown Prince of Uchiha? Because as of now, 2 of your attempts on my life have been foiled, and that means 2 charges of high treason. Not that it matters since one is enough to entail capital punishment. Don't you have any worry about the consequences for you, or your family when they lose you to the hangman's noose?" asked Naruto calmly, applying butter to the man's toast on his behalf now that he lacked a knife. In return, he got a seething mad expression on the student's face. "I have no family. My father died shortly after I was born. My brother joined the military and passed away on a mission abroad in some unknown land. My mother, heartbroken, joined soon after, leaving me an orphan at age 10. An orphan just like him. What is your name? And why are you so against the government?" Seconds of silence ensued before he deactivated the paralysis seal. "Look, let me give you a proposition. I'm sure you're curious why I didn't just throw you in jail right away. I too was orphaned at birth. My fate changed by the action of single evil man who took control of the Kyuubi and attacked Konoha. It's a long story, but let's just put it this way. I'm all for peace and better governance. I was only made aware of my heritage days ago, so I hope you will understand why I want to gain some perspective on the people's opinions of the current government. Now, my proposition is this. Since granting amnesty is one of my imperial prerogatives, that is exactly what I'll do if you cooperate and tell me what's wrong with the government that you would willingly risk your life to assassinate the Crown Prince. Here's your chance to speak out and improve the imperial government, or, I hate to say this, but you know what awaits you at the gallows." The student looked up at him before deciding that it was the only option. "I am Kayaba Tani, and my father was a prominent researcher in the field of Fuinjutsu-infused shipbuilding. He had a breakthrough just months before I was born, but a rival of his claimed it as his own, bribing the court and suing him into financial ruin. The court stripped him of most of his assets and sent my family into poverty, which led to his depression and eventual suicide. My mother struggled to support my brother and I on her own, and when my brother was of age, he set off to join the military. He was ridiculed for our father's disgrace, and it is said that his superiors had orders from the court to send him on a mission they knew was doomed for failure. He never returned from that trip abroad." The whole time, Naruto listened patiently, nodding along. As the story progressed, however, he felt a deep sense of worry ripple through his body. This was the truth of the government under him. "I can see why you are so dead set on bringing down the government. What then is your opinion of the Princess Regent?" The people seem to be in favor of the imperial government, at least from the welcome I received yesterday, and I pegged it to the Regent doing a good job. "TSK. The people are sheep, Your Highness. The machinery of the government relied heavily on the use of propaganda to steer the nation through tumultuous times by increasing their morale and faith in the imperial court. I would regard anything the Sessho did with skepticism anyways. Plus, she's only been here for slightly more than a year. I doubt her moves are anything but a way to consolidate power." Naruto raised an eyebrow. "That is a very cynical view on matters." The student snorted. "You would be, too, if your whole life had been ruined by the government and their lies." Instead of retorting, Naruto let that sink in. "Anyways, more likely than not, the people view you as a symbol of hope. I too now think so. I have seen your sincerity and I wish, for Uchiha's sake, that you would wrest the power back from the court and set things right. That the power that once belonged to the people under the first emperor's reign shall return to the people. Let this be the only thing I beseech of you, my lord, that you would rule justly. For then, I wish you would rule forevermore." With that, Tani stood up abruptly and took a step away from the bench before getting on his knees. "I deserve nothing but death for my treasonous actions, And it is with the utmost gratitude that I thank you for your mercy, muttered Tanny as he kowtowed till his head hit the stone floor. Naruto rushed to help him up. I'm not having any of that, Kayaba-san. Thank you for exposing the harsh truths of the court to me. I promise that I will restore justice, transparency, and democracy to this empire. You have my word. Tanny smiled, unable to believe the tears threatening to spill from his eyes, nor that the words he was about to say would ever come from his mouth. Long live your Imperial Highness. Crown Prince's residence. Later, Naruto winced as a clone of his dispelled, and the memory of Sayuri punching his lights out right before it did came to his mind, along with the rest of the tour they did with Karen. This, of course, was done in the Regent's absence, and his simmering consort was on her way into the Togu. I don't understand you, Naruto. Why did you let him go? He tried to kill us. Sayuri snapped as the prince came into view. Oh boy, she wasn't going to like the fact that he had unofficially issued a pardon and decided to drop any charges against him then. Well, what do you have to say? Asked the Uchiha. Calm down, Naruto began, but it was instantly clear that the phrase was a mistake. Calm down. The expression on Sayuri's face told him that if he didn't spill what he had to say within the next 5 seconds, she would spill his guts across the Zen garden and add blood to the artificial seas. I was trying to understand his motivations, why he opposed the government. I thought that it would let me govern Uzushio better, Naruto retorted, walking into the main house. I don't get it. What's been into you lately? Why are you trying to do everything by yourself? You didn't even let me know what you were going to do, Sayuri shouted as she followed him through the corridors. That's rich coming from you? Naruto replied without thinking, but immediately regretted saying it as soon as he saw her face change into one of hurt. I'm sore dash. Save your saliva, the Uchiha said as she stormed into their bedchamber. You're sleeping alone tonight, she added before slamming the screen door shut in his face. Naruto sighed. He felt she was being unreasonable, but he'd be lying if he said this wasn't at least partially his fault. Was he really making unilateral decisions? Yugao stepped in at this moment, with a thick blanket and a spare futon rolled up under her arm. Naruto-sama. She had seen and heard all that had transpired, and was not without sympathy for her master even though she shared similar views with the crown princess. Thank you, Yugao-san, but I don't intend on sleeping tonight, said the Uzumaki. But my lord, please. Your health is of importance to the running of the empire, the Uzuki protested. I have some reflection to do tonight, Naruto replied. Don't worry, I'll be fine. One all-nighter won't do much damage to my health. I'll be out on the patio if you need to find me. In the meantime, help me with this, won't you? After issuing his order, the crown prince left for the peaceful place where he had attempted to ponder on his philosophy just the previous night. Clones in the library were ordered to form more clones before dispelling themselves so that he could synthesize all the information day by day. Still, the influx of data and memories from all that studying was starting to take a toll on him, afflicting him with a headache. Coupled with the fact that he had lost sleep last night due to his nightmare, he felt rather drained from the day and started to slouch in his chair. He must have been more tired than he realized. This wouldn't have been the case if not for his new coils, which had probably messed with his stamina and chakra control. He barely had time to lament as the drowsiness of fatigue tempted his eyes to close, and slowly but surely, his body relaxed, sprawled over the table outside in the cold autumn night. Drip, drip. It's you again, said Naruto, looking at his blonde self standing in the same knee-height infinite pool of blood. This time, he was no longer afraid of his doppelganger, and was in fact opting to pummel him into oblivion. Why are you back here again? To get your ass beat a second time? Taunted the dark-eyed Naruto. Didn't you learn from the last time? Nobody likes you and nobody will ever want you to rule. How the fuck did you mess up with Sayuri? Naruto's eyes narrowed. I've had it with your nonsense, he said, hand stretching out to form a raisin shuriken. And I won't lose this time. With a single swing, the prince flung the S-rank technique at his alter ego at point-blank range. His blonde self was simply too fast, however, the orange pigment marking the sides of his eyes indicating that he had long felt it coming. Moving at an inhumane speed for someone drenched to the knee in thick, viscous blood, the dark Naruto propelled himself from the Crimson Sea in a fraction of a second and leapt right over the Raisin Shuriken before it could hit him. Using his momentum, the blonde flipped and quickly launched a kick augmented with natural energy that sent the Crown Prince crashing into the suffocating, vile ocean. His alter ego landed smoothly on the surface, demonstrating the chakra control which he no longer possessed. "Pathetic Uzumaki Naruto," spat the blonde. "For a chunin you sure act like an academy student. What a peace-blinded fool." TCH. The prince wiped the blood from his mouth. He understood now. The blonde was a reflection of himself in a time when he still had his powers. He would almost irrevocably know all of his tricks, all of his techniques, except with senjutsu and far superior chakra control. Or did he? If there was one thing, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, this technique again. You keep using it as a crutch. In reality, it's just your way of avoiding loneliness, his alter ego said. But the truth is that you'll always be alone. Nothing can and will ever change that. Those words stung. Maybe he was right. He was a raw reflection of his mind, after all. For a long time, he had been feeling lonely. He had Team 7. Then when Sayuri left and Sakura studied under Tsunade, he became lonely again, losing himself in the process of arduous training with Jiraiya. Just days ago when Sayuri returned, his life was completed. And now, it was ripped apart once more, for he had hurt her and created a rift between them. He was truly alone, and perhaps no matter how many times he convinced himself, he was destined to always be this way. Naruto slapped himself. Since when was I turning into Niji? Since when was my past self so arrogant, so self-righteous in his ways? The Uzumaki stood up slowly, letting the blood cascade down his body. If you really are my past self, I'm glad I left you behind. I was truly blind after amassing so much power, thinking I could do everything on my own. Lies, said the blonde with venom. You were still doing things unilaterally? Why do you think Sayuri was so angry? The hatred-filled Naruto lunged at him with the celestial cloud-gathering sword, but missed as the original retreated with a few quick steps. His clone appeared behind the blonde and fired a knee at his back. Naruto's alter ego twisted away from the attempted ambush, smashing a fist into the clone which dispelled in an explosion of lightning. It might not have done much, but it was enough to distract him momentarily. And a moment was all he needed. Growling, his past self deflected the incoming shuriken, which transformed into another Naruto. Both white-haired princes then leapt towards the Sage Mode-enhanced copy. The blonde's dark eyes narrowed as he turned towards the original and thrust the sword towards him while dispatching the clone with a simultaneous kick. Naruto tried to evade the weapon, but only managed in avoiding a direct hit to his heart as the blade pierced through the right side of his chest. You're destined to fail, said his alternate self. As blood leaked down the side of his lips, the Crown Prince gave a crooked smile. Even with Sage Mode active, the prince was faster as he flicked the hidden kunai from his holster into his hand, whipping it blade first to his front. With a roar, he impaled himself further on the sword to close the distance between them, jamming the wicked implement into the blonde's heart before he could even release the sword from his grip. The dark eyes of the old Naruto widened as the orange pigment around them disappeared, almost as if his confidence in his knowledge of the prince's every move had betrayed him. Excruciating pain filled his chest cavity, but the damage had been done. He had triumphed and defeated his past self. In spite of this, the blonde managed a smirk. You may have gotten me today, Uzumaki Naruto, but at what cost? He didn't want to listen, but he couldn't stop the nagging feeling that he was right. After all, they were both dying in this nightmarish ocean of blood. I'll always be here, gnawing at your conscience day by day till you finally wither and yield to my power. Don't doubt it. You're making me wish I'd gone for the throat, muttered Naruto between labored breaths. As if in a final act of spite, the blonde twisted the sword while it was hilt deep in Naruto's flesh, its blade rending tender muscles, his right lung and severing thousands of nerves simultaneously. Needless to say, this made him extremely uncomfortable to say the least, and jolted him right from dreamland. Sitting up, he realized that he was, in fact, not cold. Someone had covered him with a fur blanket while he was asleep. Pushing it away, he looked up at the moon and gave a yawn. It was already deep into the night as the Earth's natural satellite shone overhead. He was still deeply troubled by the day's events, as well as the recurring nightmare of his past transgression. Corruption, it seemed, was firmly rooted in the government, and it definitely eroded the trust of the people no matter how much propaganda was pushed out. Though they probably attempted to disadvantage anti-imperialist newspapers, there were simply too many, and it was still largely a free press in spite of their price controls. The governance of Uchiha would then be ineffective as soon as the public became disillusioned with the system. A plan was already forming in his head for how to deal with it, but first he would have to fix his relationship with Sayuri. Admittedly, he had been in the wrong no matter his intentions, and he had taken it out on his consort. Knowing her pride, this wouldn't be easily repaired unless he said something first. And what was he to make of his unrelenting nightmares? Did it have anything to do with his philosophy? Why did he keep losing to himself, his dark self, his superior self? Wasn't the will of fire good? And didn't good always triumph over evil? He doubted this was a trial where he was some kind of hero facing a struggle with evil. And if that was so, why was it so difficult? Was the will of fire not the correct path? Was it not right? Was he too naive for believing in this dichotomy? For believing that the will of fire would always trounce the curse of hatred? Questions. Came a sudden voice. Naruto's head immediately snapped to look for its source, but there appeared to be no one in the vicinity. In fact, the voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, and it was layered such that it sounded both like a man and a woman speaking simultaneously. Questions beget answers, and they will guide thy path, my child. Who's there? Who are you? Asked Naruto into the silent night. Of course, he received no response. A quick flare of his chakra brought up no signals on his sensory range either. Was he going insane from all his nightmares? Our paths will cross again, declared the voice. Until then, may questions be thy cynosure. Wait Naruto's voice faltered as he realized that the tone of finality in the last statement likely marked the end of the conversation. What in the world was going on? The encounter had left him with more questions than answers, though given its nature, that was likely the intention of whatever entity was speaking to him. There was someone speaking to him, right? He couldn't have been hearing things. He could not afford to go crazy, not when his people needed him. Shaking his head, he gripped his cranium in desperation. It was not sleep he needed. It was knowledge. As if a cloud of madness descended upon him, he shot up from his chair and walked to the cloakroom. A watchman stationed outside was slightly taken aback by his master's presence at this ungodly hour of the night, and only barely managed to open the doors in time as the prince was practically sprinting into the room in a frenzy. My lord give me the time, please, said the Uzumaki as he located his red silk robes and put them on. It's nearly 3 a.m., replied the servant. He pulled the prince's white overcoat from the shelf and handed it to him. There's still time, Naruto muttered, buttoning up the third layer of his outfit hurriedly. But please, my lord, where are you going? Imperial Library, 7 a.m. What the hell is going on? Sayuri uttered under her breath. She had come here after her clone in the library had dispelled, which came with the knowledge that for some reason, her spouse had entered late in the night and started reading like a maniac with dozens of his shadow clones as company. She was still angry at the prince, but less so than yesterday. A small part of her felt guilty for practically throwing him out of his own house and letting him sleep out in the cold, even if he had offended her. For that matter, she doubted that he had even slept a wink in the past night if her clone's memories were anything to go by. But her Uchiha pride prevented her from showing any of it to him as she walked in. The Uchiha felt like she had just entered the command room of a belligerent nation. She found Naruto poring over several maps and inspecting the diagrams inside 3 books at once on tables located near the supercomputer. Stacks of other tomes sat disorganized in various piles both on and off the table. The mess reflected his current state of his mind, chaotic, frantic, and disorganized. On a piece of paper he had in front of him, he had drawn 7 dots, with one directly above what looked like a mountain he had drawn. What the hell were you up to that you came here at 3 in the morning? Naruto's eye bags evinced his sleeplessness as he turned to look at her. He had neither the will nor the energy to tell her that a voice had spoken to him in the middle of the night. Plus, there was a high chance she'd think he was insane. Instead, he pointed to the sketch in front of him. It's a little hard to explain, he admitted as he drew a line connecting the 7 dots. Then his tone got serious. I want to apologize for what I said yesterday. I said things in the heat of the moment. Things I shouldn't have said. Sayuri cut him off. I get it. But that's not really why I was upset. Ashamed, he looked down, knowing she was more disappointed than angry. Yes, I know I reneged on our promise to do this all together. Honestly, I know this isn't an excuse, but I've had a lot going through my mind lately on whether I've been doing things the right way. I could tell something was up with you lately. You seemed more distracted than usual, said Sayuri. Look, I guess I should have asked you, but I didn't want to pressure you. You could have told me what was troubling you. Naruto shook his head. I didn't want to trouble you with what are my problems. Also, they're rather philosophical in nature, and I think I needed a new perspective. There it is again. You want people to depend on you, but you don't want to depend on others. I know that is rich coming from me, but still, now that we're not 2 but 1, I thought the least you could do was let me help you, Sayuri replied. So, have you found the answer after all this? No answers, but more questions. That was how I was told to find the answers I wanted, said Naruto, ignoring the fact that he had not informed her of the voice. I was told to let questions be my cynosure, and I think I've gotten one step closer to sorting out this whole mess that is my Crown Prince Uzumaki Naruto, came the voice of Karen abruptly at the entrance of the library. She was donned in formal attire, as if she had just attended a session of the court. She was flanked on each side by 3 armed guards, and even without his sensing he could tell there was nothing good about what was about to unfold. He proceeded to dispel all his clones as he walked up to her. On the recommendation of the imperial court, and with my authority as Princess Regent, I hereby place you under arrest. Naruto gritted his teeth. On the charge of high treason for colluding with the enemy against the court. Sayuri scowled intimidatingly with her Sharingan triggered. What is the meaning of this? You were strangely merciful on the traitor yesterday, and even wanted to talk to him in private instead of putting him under arrest right away for high treason. Furthermore, you removed his bindings in spite of his previous attempt at murdering all of us, and I don't think it would be unreasonable to believe that you let him go after your talk. Am I wrong? Said Karen with satisfaction, grinning maliciously at Naruto. Hatred. So much hatred. The Crown Prince murmured, after turning his negative emotions sensing on her for the first time. He must have been too filled with guilt to not do it before, or Karen must have been extremely cautious with her deep acting. Or perhaps his ability might have been dulled by his weak chakra control. Either way, Sayuri was right again. Damn it. Get him, the Sessho snarled, prompting the 6 guards to enter a formation around them swiftly. A hexagonal suppression barrier formed almost instantly, and they closed in on them. Sayuri. The Uchiha did not need to be told twice, activating her Mangekyo ability at once and whisking them away. Apologies, Your Highness, but their highnesses got away, said the captain of the squad somewhat nervously. That much is obvious, Karen replied with displeasure. She walked further into the library and came to the table which Naruto had been occupying for the past few hours. Studying the diagram, with the word cynosure scrawled repeatedly on accompanying papers, it was not long before she arrived at the conclusion that it was an important clue to where Naruto had gone. Cynosure, the guiding constellation. Why, Your Highness? Tell me, Captain. What do you know of Ursa Minor? Well, my lady, it's a constellation in the sky near the North Celestial Pole, so it was used for navigation in antiquity. More specifically, sailors looked for its brightest star. Polaris? Said Karen with steel in her voice, causing realization to dawn on her guards' faces. Prepare your men, Captain. They're headed for Mount Hokuto. Chapter 23, Confluence. Previously, prepare your men, Captain. They're headed for Mount Hokuto. But, my lady, it's forbidden for anyone to enter the sacred mountain, on pain of death. Only Your Highnesses of the Imperial clan can pass through the barrier set up by the first emperor, pleaded the captain. Karen scowled. So be it. We'll use another way to draw out that worm. Foothills of Mount Hokuto. Before you say anything, I'm sorry for doubting you. You were right about Karen, said Naruto in response to his wife's. I told you so. Look, so what did you gain from the man yesterday? And why did you want us to come here of all places? It's a long story, so let's start walking. I'll tell you more on the way, he replied as he began to hike upstream along the banks of the Chijukawa. I learnt that the imperial government was corrupted, with the court taking bribes and keeping the people in place with propaganda, Naruto explained. Today's events kinda corroborated that. There was no Audi Ultram Partem at all, and they sought to arrest me before I even got to explain my side of the story, not like they'd want to hear it anyways. I wouldn't bother standing a trial where they were both the judge and the jury. So would I be wrong to guess that they were also the reason why Ishikawa was in power? And that they saw you as a threat after you dismissed him? Nope. I don't think you're far from the truth. Given Karen's behavior, she might be in cahoots with them as well. I just don't understand why, said Naruto sadly. His one and only known relative was against him? Why couldn't they just get along like before? Maybe she wanted to stay in power, and your sudden entrance into the situation disrupted that? Or maybe she just wanted revenge for you letting Orochimaru take her. Sayuri theorized, much to his chagrin. He didn't like being reminded of his failure, and somehow something about the word revenge rubbed him the wrong way. What was up with that? How many people had gone astray because of that damned notion? Sighing, he continued the trek. You still haven't told me why we're here, Sayuri pressed. I've something important to tell you. As of now, my chakra coils are screwed up from the attack on Konoha. As in, I could be died if not for Tsunade kind of screwed up. So as a result of my new coils, I've to relearn chakra control and senjutsu. That is to say, I can't even climb on trees or walk on water. Sayuri's eyes widened. Yep. So every single leap I've made in the past few days could have been life-threatening if I'd missed the ledge, said Naruto. Thank Kami that even academy students learnt how to move quickly through trees before they learnt tree climbing, building the confidence they needed for shinobi movement in general. Still, that doesn't explain why you asked me to bring you here. Well, apart from having to restart from scratch in terms of chakra control, I've been having a lot of nightmares. Nightmares about what I did to the leader of the Akatsuki. It's also becoming harder to contact Asura, and I've a feeling it's got to do with my departure from his philosophy through my actions. Sure, I've retained his gifts of a powerful body that can contain natural energy without turning to stone, just like how you can still use the Rinnegan after casting Indra aside. But it means little if I can't use Six Paths Sage mode, as that requires me to be able to assimilate natural energy, not just hold it in. So while I was still musing about philosophy, I heard a voice. Don't look at me like that. I swear I'm not crazy, Naruto said. The Uchiha shook her head. Never mind, continue. This world was weird enough. Nothing surprised her anymore. I told you what it told me before, that questioning my beliefs was the way to go, and that it would lead me to the right answers. And its last sentence to me was, may questions be thy cynosure, thy. Sayuri suppressed a snicker. From the way you described this voice, it sounds like an old-fashioned person. Yeah, well, first of all, I had to understand what the hell cynosure even meant. It means something serving for guidance or direction. I mean, if that was all, I might have just stopped there. But below its entry in a lexicon I found in the library, I found its etymology. Cynosure came from words that meant dog's tail, referring to the constellation Ursa Minor, or more specifically, the pole star it contained. Hakutozen, Sayuri filled in, though her voice had a tinge of doubt in it. Yeah, maybe it's a little far-fetched, but seeing as how the emperors were required to come to this so-called sacred mountain before their accession, I figured that it must have been of some importance. Plus, there are ancient barriers that prevent anyone outside of the imperial clan from entering, which certainly makes me very curious about what up here is so closely guarded, even if it's not really what I should be after. His wife shrugged. Being curious is still questioning things, right? You'll have to come up here anyways. Exactly. Naruto could already tell that she too was intrigued. Wait, did you hear that? Sayuri said, hushing him. Hear what? This low, moaning sound? Naruto shook his head, confused as he looked at the trees around him. Bringing his hands together, he intoned, Kagura no Shingon. No one, reported Naruto. Sayuri, hey, where are you going? His wife was walking in the opposite direction, almost as if in a trance. Without warning, she drew her sword and started slashing at the trees. Shut up, shut up, shut up. With a kick, Sayuri brought down an entire tree, but it seemed futile as she continued to shout at the unseen foe, punctuating every sentence with a chop of her blade. Sayuri! Stop! Dash! Just as suddenly, the ugliest sound he had ever heard reverberated through the woods. It was like someone was deliberately dragging a rake across a chalkboard. Ominous, dissonant screeching accompanied by a cacophony of phantom voices screamed, throwing doubt and fear into his mind's eye. Why are you here? Why do you live? Just to suffer. Why do you lead? Just to glorify your own name. Why do you run? Just to face your destiny once more. He clutched his head. No, no, no. He had dealt with this before in his nightmare. What they needed was an anchor. They needed each other. I've no time to play your games, he snapped. I am needed. Oh, is that right, Kotaishi Naruto Shino? You will bend to our will, just like every one of your forefathers, threatened the phantoms. And just like every one of them, I'll pick myself up again. A strong will indeed, Uzumaki. But will your wife leave this forest unscathed? Narrowing his eyes, he ran in the direction of her shouts, following the trail of destroyed trees. Her silhouette appeared before him, but when he grabbed her shoulder, she turned to him with wide eyes before turning black and melting into the shadows of the forest floor. Genjutsu? He cursed his incompetence at the illusionary arts as he brought up his hand in the seal of confrontation. Kai! Nothing seemed to change. Instead, he tried to locate her chakra, but something about this place was off. It seemingly scrambled his senses, leaving him unable to pinpoint her chakra signature. Taking a breath, he tried sensing her again, this time using Kurama's ability. Instantly, he was overwhelmed by the sheer density of negative emotions in the forest, and nearly suffocated from it. All around him, there was hatred, fury, misery, and despair, rolled into one in each and every tree, permeating thick into the putrid air. Mustering as much concentration as he could through his training with the toads, he focused on seeking what he assumed would be the largest concentration of such negative emotions, the last Uchiha herself. Establishing his target, he quickly sprinted through the undergrowth towards his wife. With Sayuri, Kotaishi Naruto Shinohi Sayuri, boomed the deathly voice. You are an uncaring wife, an unfilial child, and an unworthy sovereign, slaying the only one in the family who really cared for you, betraying the one who loved you, and tarnishing the clan name with your dishonor. You do not deserve where you are today. You gave in to the evil of ages past, to the founder of ninjutsu, your very own past life, craving power for your weak self, which is exactly what you used to slaughter thousands heartlessly. You are hated, despised, and unloved by anyone. Everyone will keep you close, not out of love, but wariness of your power. You will remain in solitude for eternity as all your incarnations have. Her aura of hatred was bleeding visibly into the surroundings as a shroud of black, even darker than the canopy formed by the evergreen trees. Silence! She roared, swinging her sword in an arc to the sound of mad cackling at her futile attempt. It's pointless, crown princess. Know that the hatred against you is vast and unforgiving. Tears streamed down her face in angry rivulets as she discarded her sword in defeat. This place was sapping her will to live, draining her energy. She couldn't even seem to use her chakra. Sayuri! She turned to face the direction from which came a distant call of her name, but it seemed muted, like she was losing her hearing. Only a throb and a thumping of footsteps cut through the discordant symphony of the screaming forest, interrupting its crescendo with a cry as sharp and sudden as the first rays of dawn piercing through a pitch-black sky. Sayuri, wake up! She experienced a sensation of being flung across worlds to the land of the living, waking up shivering in her husband's arms. It's all right, dear, Naruto said, rubbing slow circles in the small of her back in a comforting manner. Hiding his worry, he smiled as he wiped the tears from her eyes. That was an expression he had never seen, nor wanted to see on her face. Fear. And not just any fear. He knew that face all too well from every time he looked into a mirror. It was a fear of loneliness. She threw her arms around the Uzumaki tightly, weeping into his chest. Hey, it's okay. You're safe now, Naruto said, as he patted her gently on the head. I don't know what those asshole trees said, but regardless, I love you. I truly do, no matter what we've argued over. I'm not gonna let you go no matter the cost. Ever. We're gonna make it through this damned forest and scale this mountain together. Nothing will stop us, and I mean it. Subconsciously, Naruto projected his own aura of warmth, making the trees around him shrink back from them. Come on, let's get out of here, said Naruto, who made to stand up, but Sayuri seemed to refuse to let go. All right, I'll carry you, but hang on tight, warned the prince before piggybacking his wife. With a sprint, he launched himself as fast as possible out of the forsaken sea of trees. In minutes, he found the Chijukawa, and a few more hours saw them bursting through the labyrinthine forest's tree line, with the river to their right. He was beginning to understand why there were barriers to keep the people out. Most people wouldn't have been able to make it out of the forest. Those dark woods whittled away at one's will to live, tore down their spirit, and laid waste to their morale, convincing people that the easiest way out was to die. Verily, my child, it's you again, Naruto replied, now calmer. It was the voice from before. I can hear it, said Sayuri, who let herself down from his back and looked around but saw no one. Ye cannot lay thine eyes upon me, for I am all around thee. I am boundless. Who are you? Thou shalt find out soon enough. I am thy guide on this pilgrimage. That is all contingent on thy willingness. Please, can you speak in the modern tongue? Naruto interrupted. Your willingness to follow my instructions. How are we supposed to trust someone we don't even know? Asked Sayuri. That is up to you, for such is the nature of faith. This mountain is sacred for a reason. It is a model of the three planes of existence, and you have just been through Yomi. A crown prince's journey starts with the Forest of Nightmares at Hakitozen's foothills, and ends upon mounting the summit. You're now on the portion that models the human realm, and before long you'll arrive at the headwaters of the Chijukawa, where you'll be cleansed, so that you can reach the summit that represents Takamagara, high plane of heaven. What happens here? The mountain is in effect a pillar between the three planes and is spiritually connected to them. Specifically, the human realm is where the heir apparent crosses paths with his ancestors and forebears to seek counsel. Why couldn't this have happened before the forest? There was no longer any response, and Naruto felt that whatever it was had probably left. Naruto, let's go. There's a long road ahead of us, urged Sayuri, grabbing his hand. They were currently on a gentle plain, and just up ahead there was a steep slope that led to a ridge. Mounting it was tedious, nay impossible for civilians, but they were shinobi, and their academic training had to count for something despite the envious environment. By noon, they had crossed the ridge and passed a valley before reaching a snow-covered slope. The temperature had dropped by 6 degrees now, and the air was becoming a lot thinner, necessitating more breaks between legs of their journey. The couple then reached a recess that led deeper into the rock face and stepped into it to seek warmth. The mouth of the cave was wide open, however, and the passage wasn't much warmer than the chilling slope outside. Let's go inside, said Naruto as he pulled his coat closer. Wordlessly, she followed him into the darkness. One step forward, and he stepped into ankle-height water with a splash. Suddenly, the cave lit up as a specter materialized before them. No, Tu-chan. Ka-chan? Whispered Naruto in wonder and disbelief, almost as if speaking louder would cause the apparitions to vanish. Running forward, he hugged his parents. The ghosts felt solid to the touch, and he could feel the warmth radiating from them in waves. As Kushina pulled back from the hug, she caught sight of the imperial emblem on his robes and sighed. I don't know why we're here, but I can take a guess. I thought I could have kept you away from my fate, his mother said sadly. Minato ran his hand through the back of his hair sheepishly. Apologies, Naruto-kun. We thought we could bury this piece of the past into its rightful place. Naruto shook his head. It's fine, Ka-chan. I do not fear my fate. It just might be the way to peace. Shaking himself out of his reverie, he turned back towards his wife, gesturing for her to come forward to meet his parents. Sayuri was still slightly stunned by their appearance and how much Naruto resembled them, but quickly snapped out of it and bowed. It's nice to meet you, Otosama, Okasama. Minato raised an eyebrow at her choice of greeting, while Kushina smiled brightly at her. You're Sayuri, aren't you? By Kami, You're as beautiful as Naruto said. She's right, my daughter-in-law does indeed have a face to launch 1,000 ships, Minato complimented. You chose well, Naruto-kun. And please, Sayuri-san, just 2-san and Ka-san will do. Both Naruto and Sayuri blushed, with the latter backing up slightly in embarrassment. Certainly not as beautiful as you, Ka-san, the Uchiha replied. I am undeserving of such compliments, 2-san. And please, just Sayuri is fine. A sweet tongue too, Kushina grinned. I'm sure Mikoto-chan would be happy to know that our children got married. How old are the two of you? We're both 16 this year, Naruto answered. Minato nodded in understanding. In conflict, maturity does indeed come at a younger age. So, you haven't explained why we're here, said Kushina, prompting a lengthy story about Konoha's destruction and the move to Uzushio, as well as the Regent's plot against him. Follow your heart, Naruto-kun. Don't be stressed out about the path people want you to follow, even if they were your past lives. This is your life, not theirs. Walk down your own path, and live a life you'll be proud of. Your mum is right. There isn't a point in following the destiny prescribed to you if you won't be happy with your decisions. Do not spend a single second chasing stars that aren't yours, and do not fight for a cause untrue to your soul, said Minato. Thank you, Tuchan Ka-chan. I'll take your advice to heart. Feeling themselves starting to dissolve, Kushina said, Don't join us anytime soon, Naruto-kun? Sayuri-chan, you better stay alive for the world. MMHM, we'll be watching from above. All right, Sayuri bowed. I'll take good care of your son, 2-san, Ka-san. Don't worry, Naruto wiped the tears from his eyes with a sad smile. I love you, we'll always love you too. Don't give us grandkids too soon, said Minato with a wink. Before the two disappeared, Sayuri turned to hug Naruto. She had never seen him this sad, this vulnerable. I'm fine, he insisted through his tears. Her eyes widened when another trick of light seemed to manifest in the form of another couple. She pulled back, warning Naruto that new specters had appeared. It's the Shodai Hokage and the Princess Mito, said Sayuri as she prepared to get on her knees before Mito stopped her. Please, it would be improper for the crown princess of Uzushio to kowtow to a mere Nishino, princess of the blood, and her husband, said the redhead after studying Sayuri's white robes emblazoned with imperial crests. Then at least allow me to give you a bow, for I am in the presence of the people I respect the most in shinobi history, replied Sayuri, who did so and received an even deeper bow in return. I never thought I'd be called back to the land of the living for a matter involving my wife's side of the family, remarked Hashirama jovially. Mito gave him a light smack on the shoulder. Right etiquette. What service is expected from, wait, is that you? Uzumaki Naruto? Asked the Shodai, upon inspecting the other person standing behind Sayuri more closely. The white-haired prince nodded and gave a bow. It's a pleasure to meet you again, Lord Hashirama. And of course, Mitoheim, Kotaishi Naruto Shino, it would seem, and Jinchuriki of the Kyubi. Why are we here, Crown Prince? And how did you meet Hashirama before? Asked Mito. Naruto wasn't surprised given her famed sensory abilities, and decided to tell them everything they had told his parents. I see. So what guidance can I provide you? Asked Hashirama. Please tell me, how did you come to defeat Madara? How did the will of fire defeat the curse of hatred? Well, our friendship went beyond what our clans allowed for in a period of strife, and it was only after much back and forth before Madara finally yielded and decided to establish Konoha together with me. Friendship and mutual understanding, that was how the will of fire triumphed. But even then, the seed of evil had not been eradicated, merely laying dormant until my appointment as Hokage triggered my old friend's curse once again. So, it never really won, did it? Said Naruto, furrowing his brows. Hashirama rubbed his chin thoughtfully before he shook his head. No, I guess not. Sayuri tried to suppress the feeling of worry that was starting to build up in her body from Hashirama's words. Words that were so reminiscent of what Indra last told her. How do I control it? The curse, I mean, said Sayuri before she could stop herself. The Senju replied, just keep in mind, the anger in your heart warms you now, but it will leave you cold in your grave. Then he chuckled. Sorry, that got a little too dark. But you know what I mean. The curse is an unsustainable way to live. It'll destroy you inside more than you'll destroy anything else. That reply left her with more questions than answers, but she now had an even greater reason to rein in any urges to smash things to bits in the name of hatred. Midouheim, what was your relationship like with Kurama? Asked Naruto. The imperial princess raised an eyebrow. Kurama, I mean the Kyuubi. It's his name. Naruto ignored the growl echoing in his mind. Mito laughed gently. I suppose that tells you much about my relationship with the beast, doesn't it? I sealed him within myself with a powerful Fuinjutsu, suppressing him with my chakra and blocking out the negative emotions he would try to corrupt me with through love. A secret I passed on to your mother before she took over as Jinchuriki. Naruto felt partially lucky being Asura's transmigrant, not having to deal with any of Kurama's issues. But he had also realized something, that love blocked out hatred, allowing Mito to effectively subjugate him. Thank you for your counsel, Hashirama-sama. Midouheim, I have learnt something very important today. The Senju tilted his head to the side. Oh? So you're ready to sever the cycle of hatred? Naruto smiled. I'll do more than that. And what of this regent you've spoken of? Will you kill your own kin? Asked Mito. The younger Uzumaki stayed silent for a while, before shrugging. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, Midouheim. Till we meet again. The specters nodded, beginning to shimmer. Trusting in our descendants, said Hashirama with a smile. I guess that's the best we can do. I'm counting on you, Naruto-san. Hours later, following the trail of water, they discovered a cave-like system in that recess which brought them to what looked like a hidden lake deep within the mountain. The only way to get to the other side was to swim, something they weren't very adept at, but they thought they'd manage. Behold the source of the Longevity River, the Lake of Ablution, which demarcates the end of the human realm. Ascending the mountain beyond this point necessitates that you cleanse yourselves of the taint of hatred. Obey the nature of things, and you are in concord with the way, calm and easy and free from annoyance. Be at peace with yourself and one with nature. Came the voice suddenly, making them step back from the shore. Naruto peered into the lake, barely seeing his reflection next to hers through the crystal-clear waters that seemed to glow supernaturally despite the cave's darkness. Shrugging, he gave Sayuri a look before diving into the waters. He turned back to see if she had followed, only to see no one. In a near state of panic, he attempted to surface to get more air, but found that he had no way of telling where up even was. He faced the front again, and came face to face with his blonde self. Startled for a moment, he gasped as he retreated, and to his surprise, found that he could breathe. Weakling, I'll crush you again, said the blonde, narrowing his eyes at the prince. Seeing as he could hear perfectly well underwater, the Uzumaki decided to ignore the physics of his reality and assumed he had entered some supernatural state where he could function normally. Naruto shook his head with a gentle smile. I don't think so, not this time. Don't give me that look. It disgusts me. Why do you fight me? I'm you and you're me, said the prince as he approached his dark-eyed doppelganger. You're listening to Mito's bullshit? You'll never be able to flush me out with love, swore the blonde who lunged at him, fist cocked back. The crown prince smiled, parrying away his arm. No, you're right. I won't be able to block you out with love. For that is a mistake, as you'll continue to exist regardless, banished as you may be, and grow in resentment. Just like Kurama. Shut up. You know nothing, roared the blonde, trying to kick the original who sidestepped away and closed the distance. Seizing the blonde's arm, Naruto pulled him into a hug. That's enough. I will not diminish your existence, or pretend you don't exist any longer. I'm not perfect and I know that. I accept you, all right? Naruto said, sensing the blonde's emotions going through a rapid state of flux before they subsided in intensity. After all, you are a part of me, just like every other emotion. There's no reason for me to have ignored you for so long, and for that I'm sorry. I accept that I wronged you by trying to forcefully suppress you without acknowledging you, and I apologize for denying your existence. You are me. You were me. But things are different now, and I can no longer let you define me or hold me back. Yes, I might doubt myself, and yes, I might hate the villagers for what they did to me as a child. But that's all in the past. I think it's time I moved past that and looked to the future at who I should be. Slowly but surely, Naruto felt the blonde he was embracing dissolve, and he experienced an inexplicable feeling of tranquility. The weight formerly on his heart was now gone, and just as suddenly, the world around him turned into a bright flash of white. Those who make channels for water control the water. Makers of arrows make the arrows straight. Carpenters control their timber, and the wise control their own minds. And so, the fetters have been shattered save one. Arise, my champion, echoed the voice, causing him to sit up suddenly in alarm. He was now on the far shore of the lake, but Sayuri was nowhere to be seen. Fear not. Your other half has battles of her own to fight, and she will make it out if she be worthy, said the voice, as if it knew what he was thinking. The Uzumaki stood up in worry, but couldn't ignore the calming atmosphere that had descended upon him. In fact, this place, it was brimming with natural energy, more than anything he had ever felt before. The presence of nature was much stronger here than in Myobokuzen. He felt a sense of harmony, a sense of union with nature. Does that answer your question, my child? Asked the voice, its multilayered texture betraying its primordial essence. Naruto nodded. You are nature, and I was meant to set foot here, to realize that the curse of hatred and the will of fire form the dichotomy of human nature, but are merely two sides of the same coin, and that the true path is not either, but both, the middle way. Indeed, for there is no darkness without light, no good without evil. Learn this from the river's flow in mountain cleft and chasm. Loud gush the rivulets, the great stream silent moves. Loud booms the empty thing, the full is ever calm. Like pot half full the fool, like full pot the sage. And thou art the sage supreme, child of the prophecy, destined to bring balance to this world shaken by the machinations of extraterrestrial forces. Otsutsuki Kagaya, Naruto whispered, almost as if she would break free from the moon had he spoken just a little louder. She of the ages past, descended upon this planet by a comet, bringing with her the seed of sin, the divine tree. In pacifying the people, she was corrupted by Chakra, which she spread to her sons by blood. Her firstborn, sage of the six paths, was the first to wield the power you do today, the power of nature, the authority to correct the imbalance she had created in the world. I understand now. My task is to right wrongs and to return nature to equilibrium. Am I right? Yes. He who in early days was unwise but later found wisdom. He sheds light over the world like that of the moon when free from clouds. Damaged as you may have been, you have been cleansed by the lake of ablution, and the power stripped from you during your abandonment of your philosophy now return in full force with the understanding that you have wrought from self-realization, being at peace with yourself and embracing your nature. Naruto approached the shore where the water lapped against the sands. This time, he saw his reflection and was shocked at the sight of blonde locks framing his face. Furthermore, red pigment had appeared around and under his eyes, as well as on his forehead in a circle and a dot. You are the next sage supreme after Senju Hashirama. He too had realized the need to end the conflict and had gained my blessing. This form of senjutsu is superior to that of the toads and the snakes, for you do not just weaponize natural energy, but become one with it, holding dominion over the elements of nature to return balance to this world, and manipulating them with a mastery surpassing anything shinobi can do with chakra alone. This is so much responsibility, but it is rightfully yours, my champion. I would not have chosen you if I knew you could not bear it. And now, your last fetter awakes. Naruto heard a gasping sound to his right, and quickly turned to help his wife up. Sayuri, are you all right? The Uchiha nodded, but she didn't look like she wanted to talk about what had happened and instead observed her surroundings in an attempt to orientate herself. Where are we? When Naruto grabbed her hand, everything that had transpired seemed to run through her brain, for a glint of understanding appeared in her eyes. Steps away from the summit. Follow the light of dusk, said nature. Naruto spied slivers of light coming from distant rocks, so he brought his wife in that direction. They came to another tunnel, which bore an exit that shone with the radiance of the evening sun. Summit, Hakutozen. Look! Sayuri pointed to the sky, and in the distance, They could make out a shining star along with others that glowed in the constellation of Ursa Minor. "It's beautiful," said Naruto, before the Uchiha pecked him on the cheek. "We made it. I'm so glad, Naruto-kun." The crown prince smiled. "I couldn't have done it without you." "There's a reason for the name of this mountain, my children," nature said. "In Takamagara, there is Polaris and its enclosure, said to be the heavenly emperor and the celestial palace. On earth, we have his counterpart, the emperor of all under the heavens. You, my child, sage supreme, and Empress Sayuri, second to one. Together, you will unite the world and restore equilibrium. Now, return to thy empire, for thy people are in need, and this will be the first of many tests as a sovereign. Palaces built of earth and stone and wood, wealthy men endowed with food and dress and finery, legions of retainers who throng round the mighty. These are like castles in the air, like rainbows in the sky, and how deluded those who think of this as truth," warned nature. "An emperor is only as worthy as his people make him out to be. Though thou art crowned by nature, beware. So impermanent are the constructions, so transient, so unreliable." Naruto understood. He had to earn his keep. "No, you do not understand," said nature almost disapprovingly. It was clear that it had something against Sayuri. The way it had called her his last fetter, who passion for all pleasure ends, helped by the state of man of naught, rid of all else, is yondermost release of all sense released. He would stay poised untrammeled in that state. Nature spoke. "Awaken ye to the doctrine, exert skill, lead the Brahma faring, for there is no immortality of anything born." Naruto shook his head. "I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. Perhaps it is too early. You shall learn along the way. Now go. The populace awaits their rightful lord." Sayuri frowned, looking at the distance. "Naruto, do you see that?" She had pointed at the distant prefecture which they had visited, where a large cloud of fire had erupted overhead. It was certainly not fireworks, no, it was a warning, one that promised the destruction of Konoha's citizens. "Hurry! Plaza, Imperial Palace Gate." "I'm surprised you've returned, Naruto Dano." "Surrender at once," demanded Karen at the veranda of the gatehouse, "or I will firebomb the Kyoto residences and wipe out Konoha's population from the face of this planet." The prince raised his hands, allowing the guards near him to apply shackles which sealed his chakra away and absorbed it. "Karen, I'd just like to ask you one question. Why did you do this?" asked Naruto. The regent's face scrunched into an unrecognizable expression, and in fact, her entire person was different. She was no longer the clanswoman Naruto had rescued from the bear. She was the Sessho, her gaze calculating, her mind spinning with unforgivable thoughts. "Because you're a traitor that threatens to destroy the peace Uzushio has enjoyed for the past 70 years, Karen said finally. Her answer was understandable, for people had begun to gather at the plaza, and a politically correct answer was the only one acceptable. "Come, people of Uzushio, behold, the execution of the treasonous man you call Crown Prince Uzumaki Naruto," Karen announced. The people stood silent, almost as if they were waiting expectantly. Or perhaps they dared not defy the will of the institution. Within minutes, the guards had erected stocks and a pole. "Apologies, Your Highness," whispered one as he bound the blonde to it. "I forgive you, for you know not what you do," muttered Naruto, watching as the public began to fill the square that was about to become his execution ground. Karen gestured for a guard armed with a whip to take his place in front of the stocks. "Kotaishi Naruto Shino, on the advice of the imperial court, is hereby sentenced to death for high treason, as well as resisting arrest. He colluded with an enemy that had attempted to assassinate the imperial entourage, letting him off after speaking with him in private. For conspiring against the court, he faces the capital punishment of scourging to a state of near death, after which he will be brought to a cross where he will hang until he is dead," declared the Minister of Justice. "Kotaishi Naruto Shinohi Sayuri is still at large for abetting his escape, and will face equal punishment. Do you have any last words before we commence the execution?" asked the Princess Regent. "The fool who does evil to a man who is good, to a man who is pure and free from sin, the evil returns to him like dust thrown against the wind," spoke Naruto with a voice not his own, his blue eyes glowing momentarily. With that, he fell silent, but the crowd could not help but be shaken. Hajime! Karen snapped, and the first of 100 lashings fell upon the Uzumaki, striking him across the face. Ichi, and I! The second tore a chunk of flesh from his chest, but the wound merely steamed as it regenerated in moments. This inadvertently excited the executioner, increasing the fervor with which he delivered his next strokes to see if he could outpace Naruto's regeneration. San, Yan, Go, Roku, Nana, Hachi, Q, Ju! Cried the executioner, counting each stroke as he went. Stop! Came a scream from the crowd, so loud, so heartrending that the executioner actually halted despite himself. The people parted to give way to the person running up to the stocks. Stop, tyrant! What proof do you have to accuse His Highness of treason? Shouted Kyabatani. I will expose your corruption even if it will be the death of me. The regent's eyes narrowed in recognition. It's the assassin. Get him. Naruto's eyes widened. What are you doing, Kayaba-san? Get out of the way. It was too late, for the guards had seized him already, pressing him to the floor, and the crowd was starting to process what was going on. Do not be mistaken, assassin, Karen spat. It will be the death of you, Minister of Justice. The minister shrunk back in slight fear before clearing his throat. Kayaba-san, you are hereby sentenced to death on the count of high treason for attempting to assassinate the imperial entourage. You will be scourged and crucified. You swore to do no harm to any citizen. Did you not, Sessho Uzumaki Karen? Naruto said, forcing himself to be calm. You have not only forfeited the right to live among us, Kotai Shidano, but under the laws of the Empire of Uzushio, you have forfeited the right to live at all, said Karen, ignoring him. You did not answer dash. Hajime, the regent ordered, but the executioner dared not raise his whip under the fierce gaze of the crown prince. Tell me, Princess Regent, what good do I gain from wanting to assassinate the imperial entourage, with myself included? It was premeditated, you traitor. You knew you would be left unharmed because of the precautions you took. Karen fired back. Hajime, Naruto warned the executioner with a look once again. It seems you are desperate to end this conversation. Are you afraid that I'll expose your corruption? Did you presuppose that I would have planned the assassination of the entourage with a man I didn't know from a place I didn't know, when only my wife, you and I were in it? And for what? To be enthroned? I was already crown prince. Gasps spread through the crowd as they begun to realize the flaw in this whole trial. Naruto smiled a little as he sensed the panic in Karen. No, you wish to collapse the court and consolidate power, Karen said. She did not even know why she was wasting time arguing with him when the execution should have already been underway. And you suppose the court and the regent should exert control over the monarchy as opposed to the rightful heir? Your words are far more treasonous than mine. Suddenly, a swirl of leaves appeared in the middle of the plaza. Apologies for my tardiness, Your Imperial Highness. But I have what you asked for yesterday. Just in time, Yugao-san, said Naruto with a smile. The shackles on him turned to stone due to an influx of natural energy, and with a flex of his muscles, the crown prince easily broke free. I have in my possession the ledgers and records of all the ministers, which reveal that they have been taking bribes. It seems the poison of corruption is not exclusive to primitive nations, said Yugao with distaste. The ministers were all taken aback, much more than the people were. The first to snap was the Minister of Justice, who pointed at the regent. It was her. It was her who made us do it, shouted the minister. Have mercy on us, Your Imperial Highness. Karen scowled at the ministers. All of you have been taking bribes? And you dare implicate me along with you all? Yugao said, Sessho Karenju, there is no point in feigning ignorance. You are complicit in this heinous miscarriage of justice as well, gaining support to displace the rightful heir and silencing the people's cries for fairness in return for facilitating many of their bribes. This goes against the first emperor's principles and will to be a leader of the people. The crowd started to jeer. Down with the regency. We want our own leader. We want the crown prince. Naruto held up a hand, and the people fell silent. I would not frame you, Sesshodano, but I'm afraid your zealotry in attempting to have me executed without first acquiring evidence is rather incriminating, not to mention your recent treasonous remark, as well as threats to blast the people of Konoha off the face of this planet. I will, of course, not be a hypocrite, and will consider clemency for ministers willing to testify and cooperate with me in the pursuit of truth. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. It appeared that for once, she had nothing to say. Guards! Yes, sir. Take them away. All of them. Cheers and applause erupted spontaneously in the plaza. Banzai! Roared the people. So this was the true face of Yuzushiogakure citizens. In my capacity as Crown Prince, I hereby formally pardon Kayaba-san of his treason, because he was not anti-imperialist but anti-corruption. In fact, I have him to thank for exposing me to the evil of the court and the regent during our short conversation. Hail, the hero of Yuzushio. The public's attention then turned to the man, with journalists snapping photographs of the moment to be immortalized in the news. Farewell, citizens of Yuzushio. Rest easy tonight knowing you will be in good hands, said Naruto before he disappeared. Crown Prince's residence. Later. How did it go, Sayuri? The Uchiha walked into their bedchambers and discarded the black attire she had donned for her operation in Kyoto. Pretty good. I managed to disable the domestic artillery just as the Minister of Justice began to read out your sentence. There was a news broadcast on this huge screen on one of the shopping malls, so I saw everything that happened. Did I do well? She nodded, but there was no smile on her face as she walked up to him. Was the scourging rough? She traced her hand across his chest, her eyebrows scrunched in worry from what she had seen on the second lashing. The Uzumaki chuckled. Was that what you were worried about? I'm fine, Haim. I could take it. Then he embraced her. I'm thankful you asked. I'm glad you care. And never stop worrying about me no matter how strong I get. Sayuri squirmed under his affection. Don't be silly. I'm your wife. For that, I'm grateful. I don't think I would wish for anything else. Thank you. He kissed her on the lips and received a blush in reaction. You know, we've kissed so many times, but you're always still embarrassed by it, teased Naruto. Sayuri pulled away, an eyebrow raised. Is that right? She gently pushed Naruto onto their bed and reached for the clasp that disrobed her garments. Let's see who's embarrassed after all this. From the kitchen table to the walls, the couple didn't stop until they christened every surface in the residence. And so, for the first time in millennia, Yin and Yang were brought together in the harmonious union of matrimonial bliss. Seems to be you, Naruto said finally, withdrawing from the body of Sayuri, who laid next to him. TSK, you wish. But I love you too. Naruto caressed her hair, tucking a lock behind her ear. To me, that's the only thing that matters. One fortnight later, the Imperial Household Agency had sent retainers to return to the service of the Crown Prince's residence, after their initial removal during the search and arrest of the heir apparent. It was agreed upon for the accession to be brought forward to the closest auspicious date, and invitations were sent along with the treaties of friendship for foreign dignitaries to attend his enthronement. It was the morning of the Soki no Rei enthronement ceremony. Naruto's servants draped the final outer robe of the elaborate sokutai over him, a golden yellow silk garment embroidered with stylized emblems of chrysanthemum flowers. They then handed the crown prince a shaku, an oaken ritual scepter to complete his attire. Your Imperial Highness, greeted Yugao with a bow. Your humble servant shall bring you to the State Function Hall, where the presentation of the 3 sacred treasures will take place. We are not running late, are we? No, my lord. The ceremony is slated to commence at 8. We still have a quarter of an hour. What of Sayuri Haim? The Junahaido is a complex dress indeed, your highness. Naruto nodded in understanding. Shall we see how she is doing? As it turned out, Sayuri was still busy being layered by a series of multicolored robes, each with their own names. Her hair had also been fixed in accordance with protocol, and makeup had been applied prior to his entry into the room. You look beautiful, Sayuri. The consort's eyes met his, and she flashed him a winsome smile before curtsying slightly. Please do not move, Sayuri Haim, said the retainer who was currently trying to don her train, an apron-like garment that was embroidered with adornments. My apologies, your Imperial Highnesses. My grandfather, the High Priest, will arrive shortly at the Sidon to present the Imperial regalia. The delegates from the Land of Fire, the Land of Water, and the Land of Wind have also just arrived at the port, reported Yugao. Are the Imperial Guard parties that we prepared to receive them already there? Yes, sir. The trackers show that they are en route to the palace. Naruto grinned. That's great. Is the crown princess ready? Yes, your Imperial Highness, came the reply of the retainer who had been in charge of her dress. She looked relieved, much to Sayuri's amusement. State Function Hall. This humble subject, the High Priest of the Empire, pays respects to your Imperial Highnesses the Crown Prince and Princess of Uzushio, greeted Yugao's grandfather. Naruto acknowledged his greeting with a nod, and was a little guilty about the old man kneeling due to his frail appearance. The old man gestured for his two apprentices to move forward, where they knelt before the seated prince and raised two chests. It is my honor, my humble privilege to present to your Imperial Highness the imperial regalia of Uzushio, said the high priest. Naruto could tell. He had been waiting for decades for the rightful heir to ascend the throne. The heavenly sword of gathering clouds, the Kusanagi no Tsurugi from Atsuta Shrine, representing valor, announced the high priest as one of his apprentices opened the lid of a 1.5-meter-long wooden box. Inside, nested in stone and the log of a camphor tree lined with red clay and gold, sat a metallic white sword with a middle resembling a fish spine and a blade the shape of a calamus leaf. Secondly, the Yasukani no Magatama from the 3 palace sanctuaries, representing benevolence. The smaller box was opened, revealing 3 curved jade beads on a black leather string, sitting on a cushion of velvet. Each was the size of a plum, and shaped like a comma with intricate carvings on them depicting the pacification of the elemental nations. The third treasure, the Yata no Kagami, represents wisdom. It is housed in the ISE Grand Shrine and embodies Amaterasu Amakami, and thus will not be presented. With this, the presentation of the 3 sacred treasures are complete, said the high priest. Naruto put on the necklace of Magatama and instructed the priests to return the Kusanagi to its box where it would be placed on a stand for the second part of the ceremony. Send forth the imperial messengers to ISE Grand Shrine and the mausoleums of Emperors Showa, Heisei, Teisho, and Komiai. Inform them of the new emperor's accession, cried the high priest. Yes, sir, your Imperial Highnesses. Let us proceed to the Takamakura for the enthronement. The people of Uzushio await your arrival. Chowadan Reception Hall. On a curtained, octagonal pavilion, there sat a simple chair atop 3 octagonal pedestals on a larger square pedestal in a pyramidal array. Each pillar held up a portion of the elaborate black and gold enclosure, which was surmounted by a large phoenix sculpted of pure gold. Below the veranda of the hall, thousands of citizens squeezed onto the Kyuden Todai Plaza to observe the enthronement, which was admittedly making Naruto a little nervous. Out of sight, Sayuri squeezed his hand reassuringly. Naruto inhaled deeply, reminding himself that if he had become Hokage, he would have received the same amount of attention. Looking up, he caught the eye of Gaara and his siblings, standing further away within the hall together with the Wind Daimyo. The Kazekage offered him a reassuring nod. Naruto exhaled and began to walk up the steps to the pavilion, followed closely behind by Sayuri, who stood on a separate pedestal after he sat down on the chair. In the distance, members of the Imperial Guard began to beat massive traditional drums, heralding the start of the ceremony. The high priest brought in the stand on which the chest containing the Kusanagi rested, as well as another box containing the privy seal of Uzushio, Naruto's imperial signet. Hark, ye citizens of the Empire of Uzushio, with reverence and respect, proclaimed Yugao's grandfather, causing silence to fall upon the plaza. On this first day of the Meiji era, let it be known throughout the lands of Uzushio, by the grace of Amaterasu Amakami, His Imperial Highness Crown Prince Uzumaki Naruto is hereby enthroned His Imperial Majesty the Emperor of Uzushio, Son of Heaven, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Conqueror of the Three Plains, the August One and Grand Duke of the Eastern Ocean and all dominions whereto belonging, Suzerain of Peace, Pacifier of War, Lord Protector of Nature and the Great Balancer. By the grace of Amaterasu Amakami, Her Imperial Highness, Crown Princess Uzumaki Sayuri is hereby enthroned Her Imperial Majesty the Empress of Uzushio, Holy Mother of the Lands, Queen of Queens, Lady of Ladies, Sovereign of the Silk, Second to One and Grand Duchess of the Eastern Ocean and all dominions whereto belonging, Palladium of Liberty, Monarch of Justice, Liege of Lanterns and Lady of the Paulownia Flowers. Hail, their Imperial Majesties, Emperor and Empress of Uzushio. Banzai! 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 Chanted the masses. Naruto stood up to the sound of uproarious applause, walking forward to the veranda which oversaw the plaza. Yugao handed him a scroll, which he unfurled to reveal a script that had been in the making for the past 10 days after much deliberation with his closest advisors. Hark, the proclamation of the First Imperial Edict. Whereas, by this oath, hereafter the Charter Oath, we, Emperor of all under the heavens, set up as our aim the establishment of the national wealth on a broad basis and the framing of a constitution and laws, began Naruto. 1. Deliberative assemblies shall be widely established and all matters decided by open discussion. 2. All classes, high and low, shall be united in vigorously carrying out the administration of affairs of state. 3. The common people, no less than the civil and military officials, shall all be allowed to pursue their own calling so that there may be no discontent. 4. Evil customs of the past shall be broken off and everything based upon the just laws of nature. 5. Knowledge shall be sought throughout the world, so as to strengthen the foundation of imperial rule. Now, therefore, we do hereby promulgate the Constitution of Uzushio, which will establish the Emperor in council, Emperor on the bench and Emperor in diet. The following will be established in accordance with the Constitution: a bicameral imperial diet with an upper house of councillors and a lower house of representatives elected by the people, a privy council of advisors, a cabinet of ministers of state headed by a prime minister, inducted through the candidature of the imperial examinations, a judiciary, headed by the Chief Justice, functioning independently of the legislative and executive organs of Uzushio. Finally, the censorate, our eyes and ears, will eradicate corruption in this sacred empire. We adjure ye, people of Uzushio, to single-mindedly assist us in attaining all of our aspirations for the empire of Uzushio. Naruto then reached for the privy seal, dipping it in the cinnabar seal ink next to it, before ceremoniously pressing it on the bottom of the scroll before millions through the nationwide broadcast. Given under our imperial hand and seal at the Imperial Palace, Uzushio-gakure, this first day of the Meiji era, from a battery of soldiers stationed in another plaza, 21 consecutive shots of gunfire sounded in the air, signaling the end of the enthronement ceremony. Returning the scroll to Yugao, he helped Sayuri down from the Takamakura enclosure and strolled towards the foreign delegates with his entourage behind him. Seeing his approach, Gaara flicked the front of his robe before coming to a kneel. This humble subject, Kage of the Land of Wind, pledges his undying allegiance to your Majesty the Emperor. His siblings followed suit, and so did the Wind Daimyo. May cast a glance at the dignitaries from the Land of Wind before deciding to do the same. She did owe the Empress a favor, and had decided earlier that the technology promised by Naruto was of great use to Kirigakure. The Fire Daimyo was the last to do so, feeling rather awkward kneeling at the feet of his own former shinobi. Please, we're glad you've agreed to our terms. Let us proceed to breakfast. Naruto invited. Homeidan State Banquet Hall. Your Majesty, the technological advancement of Uzushio-gakure is simply amazing, said Mei. Fuinjutsu is a wonderful art indeed, but above that, perhaps education was Uzushio's most important tool. With more people educated, more citizens could engineer the innovation that brought rapid development to the prefectures. Peace, Your Majesty. Was that not what allowed Uzushio-gakure to continue uninterrupted? Asked Gaara. Of course. Which is why it is important for us to rally shinobi from all over the world together to fight the threat that the masked Uchiha and Mugen Tsukuyomi represent to the elemental nations. But first, in the process of furnishing your lands with the technology in Uzushio, we must convene with the Kage of the lands of Earth and Lightning to convince them to combine forces in order to repel the self-proclaimed Madara. Coincidentally, Your Majesty, the Reikage had recently sent letters asking for such a summit. He cited concern about Akatsuki's activities. That is good to hear. When and where does he propose to hold the summit? In 2 weeks, Your Majesty, at the Land of Iron. Good. Naruto gestured for an imperial scribe to approach the table. Receive the imperial edict. In reward for their allegiance to the empire, the daimyo and kage of the lands of wind, fire and water shall receive the technology of Uzushio-gakure. The provision of experts to assist the lands in their upgrading shall come from the top graduates of the School of Fuinjutsu. Land of Iron. 2 weeks later, the powerful gallop of 3 thoroughbred horses filled the air as they thundered through a snow-blanketed forest on the way to the stronghold of the samurai. Naruto pulled the purple cloak above his coat closer to his body, his other hand on the reins. The Land of Iron was still freezing even by Konoha's winter standards, and that was even with 5 layers on. "We're almost there, Your Majesty," said Shikamaru as he caught sight of the complex peeking out from the hills ahead. Naruto dug his feet into the stirrups, triggering the horse to break into a sprint towards their destination, followed closely by its siblings. Outside the building, 2 samurai armed to the teeth kept vigil, and raised torches in their direction when the horses came in sight. "Your Imperial Majesty, Lord Mifune extends his welcome to our humble country. The other Kage have arrived." Naruto nodded, dismounting and handing the reins and his snow-peltered cloak to Yugao. One of the samurai guided them into the stronghold, weaving through complex corridors to reach a room carved from blue stone. 5 banners bearing the insignia of the various lands hung from the ceiling, ending right behind the seats of the various Kage. Each seat, save Tsunade's as Naruto was attending on her behalf, was occupied by its respective hidden village leader with 2 aides standing behind them, watching the rest in unmasked tension. Where the horseshoe-shaped table ended, a senior samurai one could only assume to be Mifune sat at a separate table, establishing him to be the speaker at the summit. With his entrance, the 5 leaders rose. The Kazekage, Mizukage, and their bodyguards then knelt with their heads bowed. At this, the Reikage's eyes narrowed, while Inoki's face took on an unreadable expression. The news of the ancient empire's revival had only broken recently, after all. "These humble subjects, Kage of the lands of wind and water, pay their respects to your Imperial Majesty the Emperor," spoke Gaara with a low voice. "Your Majesty," greeted Mifune with an acknowledging nod and a slight bow which Naruto returned. The samurai had remained neutral to the announcement, for so long as their land remained untouched by shinobi. Naruto gestured for the 2 subordinate Kage to rise. "You've finally arrived," said A. His lack of courtesy did not go unnoticed, but was to be expected from the leader of a breakaway state that had played a part in Uzushiogakura's destruction. "Our apologies," Naruto replied, "but we believe we are not late." The Reikage grunted in return. The best he could offer for the Uzumaki was right about the time. Mifune concealed a sigh before asking the leaders to take their places round the table. "Reikage Dano, please begin with the agenda," said the samurai leader. "I'll cut to the chase. We need to stop the Akatsuki. As you may know, my village's Jinchuriki have been captured and killed. If my intelligence is right, the same is the case for the other 7, save 1. A paused, looking up at Naruto, who returned a level gaze. The Emperor replied, "You are right. We are the last Jinchuriki, and we have managed to exterminate who we suspect to be the puppet leader of the Akatsuki. It is imperative that we stop the remaining fragments of the organization, namely the masked man masquerading as Uchiha Madara." Gaara said, "His Majesty is correct. As a Jinchuriki myself, I've been through their extraction and was lucky to have lived. Their objective behind gathering the Biju is to revive the Jubi, and that monster spells doom for all of humanity if we do nothing to stop it." "How am I supposed to believe that?" asked Inoki. "Do you have any proof? You are, after all, his subject," accused the aged Sasuke with a pointed look at the blonde. Naruto sighed. "We hope this is not because of who our father is. There is no ulterior motive for us to speak against the Akatsuki. What do we stand to gain? The Biju, perhaps?" Inoki pressed. "Maybe you hope to reclaim the tailed beasts from the Akatsuki's clutches." The blonde fought down the anger he was starting to feel in his body. "You wouldn't have come all the way here just to throw a spanner into any constructive discussion, would you, Sachikage Dano?" Mei reasoned. "You may disagree with whatever plan we come up with to combat Akatsuki, but surely not disagree with the need to fight them at all?" "See reason, Sachikage Dano," interrupted A, forcing out the honorific. "It only benefits us all if we destroy this evil organization that has taken the lives of our own." Don't you feel anything from losing your own Jinchuriki? Are you still too consumed by hatred for the Yondaime Hokage to even consider fighting against someone that threatens all of humanity? That was a low blow, Naruto noted, but it might just have been what was needed to convince Inoki. He looked at the Tsuchikage, whose face took on one of contemplation. The blonde then got an uneasy feeling and leapt out of his chair just as the Tsuchikage's bodyguards suddenly lunged at him. Die!